What's going on, guys? I'm back with another one, and I just watched a movie called Thor: Love and Thunder, starring, of course, Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, and Christian Bale. First of all, I want to go down a little memory lane of, Thor's timeline. What Thor's been going through these past years. All right. First, there was Thor Part 1. The origin story. It told a tale of how Thor came to know Loki, and how Loki became not only family, but his arch nemesis. Okay? All in the same rap. Right? Family something else, right? And it was one of the best origin stories, in my opinion. It doesn't get enough props that it deserves. But it is a great origin story for Thor. Loved that. Loved every minute of that. Right? Then, Thor 2, or Thor Dark World, came out. Unfortunately, someone decided that everyone with the gift of sight needed to waste that gift of sight on this movie. It hurt. It hurt watching this. The plot made no sense. The villain was horrible. It was the worst villain I've ever seen, despite some other ones. All right, it was a wreck. It was a wreck. It was garbage. All right. It was just a waste time to get to the third one. You got to make 3. And that's where Thor Ragnarok comes into play. This is the best one from Thor yet. Well, we haven't talked about the other one yet, but right now, before I review, okay, it had everything. It did something that other Marvel movies were building up to. Putting the humor in there with the action, trying to make it a perfect mix. Thor Ragnarok did that. No problems asked. No problems at all. Okay? It knew how to get there where no other movie could go. All right? Before I get any further into this, there seems to be a pattern with that. Our 3 main guys, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, they could not seem to get all 3 movies to line up in a row. Iron Man 1 was the best one. Iron Man 2 was okay. And Iron Man 3 was complete garbage. Then Captain America was the worst one. The first one, first Avenger, trash of horror. Part 2 is getting a little better. Getting a lot better. Captain, Winter Soldier. Then Part 3 came in. That was the icing on the cake right there. He met his quota. He met his quota right there. All right. And it seems to be the same thing going on with Thor. All right. And so now we have Thor: Love and Thunder. And my question is, will Thor: Love and Thunder be just as good, at least, as Thor Ragnarok? We'll have to find out. Let's go. Thor: Love and Thunder. For those who don't know, for those who are not aware, if you had no idea about Thor: Love and Thunder, you have been smited by the gods. All right? And you might be on a little mission right now as we speak. Someone might need to go stop you, because you are missing out on, I don't know why you missed out, but you're busy right now. All right? You're busy doing something that I will not speak of. But yeah, don't play me. You know about this movie. Thor: Love and Thunder. It's pretty much, of course, it always comes from the last Thor they made, or a movie adventure that Thor was on. And he's just, making his last rounds with Guardians of the Galaxy, bidding them a well adieu, or however you say that. And he's coming into his own new adventure by himself, with not knowing what's going on with Jane Foster and what she's doing, and that she's going through some health issues at the moment. Won't mention what's going on, but little health issue there. And while that's going on, there is this man named Gore who has been down on his luck. His family's dying. His daughter dies in his hands. He's asking for the gods to help him, to save him, and all the gods do is ridicule him. And it angers him so much that he swears on that day he's going to annihilate, murder every god he sees. And this, of course, this becomes a Thor problem. And that's the premise of the movie. Positives. The first thing I have to say about this, even though I despise overdone CGI, usually. But in this case, the CGI was just so good. It was breathtaking. All right. I could never believe that I would love something so overdone. It's still overdone CGI, and it's done in a way that you just don't mind. And I think they tweaked it a little bit from Ragnarok. Ragnarok had good CGI too, but this is tweaked up a little bit to the max. And I found myself liking it. I usually like when they kind of downplay on the CGI a little bit to the point where you can't tell it's CGI, but you have to know that it's CGI because you can't see nothing like this in real life. But in this case, it was out forward in the front, and I knew it, and I still enjoyed it. Okay? Superb to the CGI. Another positive. Well, if you don't know from the previews, they showed in the previews, you can't miss it. Zeus, the god of lightning, is in this movie, right? Played by our homie, Mr. Gladiator over there. And needless to say, I need to say this. I thought it was going to be very bad, or just not even an important character. Zeus did a great job of just introducing himself. Or the first time to Marvel, we're going to see Zeus in a Marvel movie. And it was an accurate depiction of what you think Zeus would be. Okay, the father of Hercules, right? He's a top dog. So he's very arrogant. Everything's about him. If he wants to talk about this in his meeting, he's going to talk about that in his meeting. He wants to talk about this and whatever. He wants to talk about orgies, whatever. He's talking about it all. And it's of no importance to anybody who you think would really want some something with some substance in a meeting, but he's talking about it, okay? To everybody in the town. And, Thor and his friends found out the hard way that Zeus is really not a good person. Okay? They thought he would be a good person, but he's not. And I like how you got Russell Crowe to depict this man, because Russell Crowe is the perfect specimen to really understand that or how to be someone that you thought would be this great guy, and then he's not. Okay? He did a great job of that. And he gave me a couple of laughs too. It was a good character to me. I actually like that character. All right? Good job, man. Good job, Russell Crowe. All right? My last positive about this. As the villain, Christian Bale carried the rest of the team on his back. He was the best actor in this movie. I think it's all that. Now that's needless to say. That is needless to say. Christian Bale carried this whole movie. Every time he came on screen, he is one of the top 10 best Marvel villains in film. All right, you heard it here first. If nowhere else, I hope other people are saying this, but Christian Bale as Gore, the God Slayer or Killer or whatever, once he came in, the movie kind of went from this campy feel to a dark cloud over your head. Like you had a scene with little kids and children, and it felt like, it is a Disney movie, and so it had the Disney vibe still. But then when he started clapping his hands and he interrupted those kids' speech and started talking at his little morbid talk that he likes to talk, it got real serious real quick. All right, it got real. You could hear a needle drop in that room. I swear. Every time he came on the screen, a chill came over me. He was that good. All right, if you're talking about intimidation for such a frail guy, because even when he got his powers, he was still frail. He just looked more evil. Okay, but he was so his presence was so strong, despite how he looked. It's hard to do that. It's hard for a lot of actors even achieve that, and he did it. Kudos to Christian Bale. Kudos to Christian Bale for carrying the cast. Negatives. I hate to say this, and I've had this on my mind for a long time, even back in the comic book. So I knew that they were going to make, as you see in the trailer, Jane Foster was going to take role of the old millionaire, and become Thor herself. Right? We all knew this. It's in the trailers. I'm not spoiling anything, but I did not like that idea when I saw it in the comic books the first time. That was a horrible idea, so I knew I would hate it, and I try not to judge too hard. But when I watched the movie, the things they did with Jane Foster's character in here, it was just there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse. Whatever is going on with her personally, the character, they made it to where she needed to seek out something, and I don't know if that's the same plot within the comic books. I don't want to say too much, but if it's not, first of all, we got some problems already. Sometimes I don't care if the comic books did it first. I don't care. A bad idea is a bad idea. All right, and she felt out of place. I felt like she had no role there. I don't know why they even chose to do this in the first place. I knew I would hate it. I immediately knew I would hate that. Okay, Jane Foster's whole existence in a timeline is just it's not help. It didn't help. All right. Another negative. I'm gonna say this comedy. The comedy was overdone. And I know I laughed at the humor in the last one, Ragnarok, but this time they turned it up way too high. All right, you want to still feel like there's some high stakes in this movie, not like we're watching a Looney Tunes cartoon. All right, there were times where they were talking and people were battling, and they would just sit there and talk for like 15 minutes and spit jokes back and forth. And I don't have time for that. I want to see more fight. When people are fighting, I don't want to see people talking. All right? I hate that. Unless there's some kind of purpose to that, no. There's a lot of time where they just chose to waste time. They wasted so much time with that. And the humor, it was overdone. There's these screaming goats in here. The first time you meet the goats, it's funny, but then after the sixth time of being introduced to them with the screams, that can get tiresome. It's not funny anymore. Stop. All right. Another thing. They pushed the agenda again. More agenda pushing in another Marvel movie. What a surprise. Stop that. You don't need to do that. You already have a certain character that represents this. You don't need 10 more characters to do that. Okay? Stop doing that. Stop. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. We've had enough. This is why the value of Marvel movies are going down the drain. You want to you I don't know who you're trying to please, but please stop doing that. All right? Please stop pushing that agenda like that. We know this person is this. That's cool. That's cool. You need to have a piece of everybody in a movie. But don't go so far from the comic book that you ruin it. You ruin the vibe of the movie. It doesn't make any sense when you make certain moves like that. My last negative about this, a very important one. The action was so downplayed in this movie. I was embarrassed at times for this film. There were parts where they had, for some reason, there was some kids or whatever. I'm not going to say what the context of that is. Kids were given a certain type of weapon by a certain character, and it just seemed like it didn't seem right. Okay, it was so stupid. Okay, you got little kids running around with lightning keys in their hand or whatever they had in their hand. They were fighting and jumping just like that other character, and it was dumb. It was not needed. This certain character could have taken care of those villains by themselves. They didn't need those kids. They could have did it themselves. It was dumb. It was so dumb. It was so dumb. I can't do it anymore. It's getting an I. This movie is getting a I. Okay, yes. I am so disappointed with you, Marvel. As a whole, I'm disappointed with Marvel. I don't even know if I want to see the next movie. I'm scared to see the next movie, man. It's movie because of certain things. It didn't get what it could have gotten, but do better. Like, share, subscribe.